I'm sure some of you that watch this channel already know this, but some of you may not. I'm a big Bulls fan. I might not always talk about the Bulls on camera, but I am. I have been for many years, going back to the mid 80s. If the Jordan tat didn't tip you off, if the no tipping Scottie Pippen jersey didn't tip you off, if the posters in the background of the greatest of all time, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, didn't tip you off, I love the Bulls. And in particular, I still to this day look back very fondly on those Bulls teams of the 90s that won 6 championships, the 2 3-peat teams. Those to me were the glory days of basketball. It was when the league was the best it ever was and probably ever will be. And the Bulls were the best that they were and probably ever will be. It's going to be hard to ever replace those Bulls teams in my heart. I mean, that's just the way it is. Nobody else really measures up, frankly. Even the current Bulls team. And it's unfortunate because I do have to admit, in a way, that I think the NBA, since Jordan left the league, it's not just because of him, obviously. There are many, many different reasons. I think the NBA product is bad. It maybe not as bad as it was, let's say, 10 years ago when I thought it was just god awful and it was almost impossible for me to sit through an entire game. Whoever was playing in the NBA didn't matter. It's gotten better. There are teams that I can actually manage to find a way to sit through their entire games. So the league has gotten better than it was a decade ago, but it's still a far cry and shell of what it was 15 or 20 years ago. Krause did the best he could in the early part of the 2000s to kill my interest and love for the Chicago Bulls. And try as he might, he almost did it. But he just couldn't get the job done, which is how I would describe him a lot as a general manager. The most incompetent general manager to win 6 world championships in sports history, bar none. I mean, every year that dumb son of a bitch, the sleuth, a penguin, was taking another power forward. We really like Corey Blunt. We really like Dickie Simpkins. We really like Jason Caffey. And then even when he decided he was going to tank things, he sat there and did what? The same old shit. He drafted power forward. We really like Elton Brand. And the next year, we really like Marcus Pfizer. I swear to God, it's like he had an orgy in his pant region of sitting there and thinking about an entire lineup of nothing but power forwards. It's freaking ridiculous. All right. Enough with my pedigree and history of being a Bulls fan. I hope I've established it enough for you now. Now we get to the build up to this 2013-2014 NBA season. And I see a lot of publicity about the Bulls, a lot of press and attention about the Bulls, many people, both talking heads and fans, picking the Bulls to go to the NBA Finals. I see some people picking the Chicago Bulls to win the NBA championship, and all I'm asking them to do is pump the brakes a minute, if you will. The Chicago Bulls of 2013-2014 are in no way, shape, or form a truly legit title contender, period. That's just the way it is. Now, you start off with Derrick Rose. He's the heart and soul of that team. He's the leader. He's the best player. He's the superstar. He's the franchise piece. And personally, to me, if you want my opinion, I can't blame Derrick Rose for not playing at all last year because they weren't title contenders last year. When you're coming back from a major knee injury like that, why would you sit there and risk it for a team that's really not going to do anything? In fact, I think in some ways as an organization, the Bulls are better off not having Derrick Rose play last year because it allowed for the development of some guys, in particular Joakim Noah and Jimmy Butler. I thought it was a good thing. They made the second round of the playoffs. They were a competitive team, and they did it all without their leader, their star player. But, now you've got Derrick Rose back, and I think people are all saying, they got their superstar back. It's kumbaya and everything else. No, it really isn't. Because this Bulls team has some pros, and it definitely has some very big cons. The pros being is that Derrick Rose is one of the best point guards in the NBA, and as the season progresses and he starts to get more and more back to speed and gets more and more into game shape, and he catches up to being the player he used to be and maybe even becomes a little bit better, they'll have him to rely on, and he'll be able to take on more of the mantle and more of the scoring responsibility and more of the overall floor leadership. I think this team plays very hard for Tom Thibodeau. They play hard in the defensive end. They're a team that you never can really fully count out. They play hard. They give a lot of effort. And I respect the Bulls for that. I like the Bulls for that. And I like and respect Tom Thibodeau for that. The fact that he does get a lot out of his team, more than he probably have a lot of other coaches get out of the team. And I like the fact that they've got some nice young talent there. You know, Derrick Rose is not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination. Somebody like Jimmy Butler is still a relatively young chap for sure. He's only been in the league a couple of years. You know, Joakim Noah is not exactly an old guy. He's entering the peak of his career. And there are some nice pieces there in Chicago. I like the offseason addition of Mike Dunleavy Jr. I think he added some length on the perimeter and some three-point shooting that this team desperately needed. But when you look at the cons of this team, this is a team to me that while they are physical and they defend you and they can rebound relatively well, I don't think they have the greatest front court in the world. When you look at Carlos Boozer in particular, Carlos Boozer is the type of guy that when he's scoring a lot of points in general, that's not good for your team because that means he's scoring a lot of garbage points and your team is going to lose. Hence, the Bulls have played 3 games this year as of the time of me recording this. One game he scored over 20 points, they lost. The first game of the season when he scored 31 points, they lost. The one game they won, he scored like 17. The less he scores, the more likely the Bulls seem to be to win, and that's not a good thing. And not to mention the fact that he's horrible defensively and he's not a double-digit rebounder. He just isn't. It's been several seasons since he had a 10-plus rebound per game season. That's going back to his Utah days. And then you look at Luol Deng. You know, and Luol Deng is the type of guy that you really can't rely upon too much because he always seems to get hurt in some way, shape, or form. And to me, he's a guy that gets a lot out of what he has, but I always look at him and I'm very disappointed because, you know, when he was coming out of Duke, I thought he was going to be a superstar. And I was incredibly happy when the Bulls drafted him. But he's been there since the 2004-2005 season. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, Luol Deng has not gotten that much better, especially from a statistical standpoint. When you look at the Bulls and their starting lineup, Derrick Rose obviously is a franchise piece. Joakim Noah is a nice, dirty work center that can help you win a championship. Jimmy Butler, I think, is a young, impressive, athletic wing that can impact the game both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. You have 3/5 of what I feel is a championship starting rotation, no question about it. And then you have some good depth on the bench, in particular Taj Gibson. I think he's a great type of, you know, I almost say a better version of a good news Cliff Livingston coming off of the bench. But when you're looking at this team, they're expecting Luol Deng to be the number 2 option and Carlos Boozer to be the number 3 option. When in reality, on a really good team, guys like Luol Deng would be a number 3 option, and guys like Carlos Boozer would be a number 4 option, if not coming off the bench as a 6-man. But unfortunately in Chicago, they've invested so much money into these two guys at those 2 positions that they have no choice but to start them and look at them as their number 2 or number 3 options. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, do you really in your heart of hearts believe that the Chicago Bulls, in the way they're currently constructed, can beat the Indiana Pacers head up in a best-of-7 series? Do you really think so? At this point, do you even think with all the changes that the Brooklyn Nets have made, do you think they could even beat the Brooklyn Nets in a best-of-7 series? Yeah. And they're not even the defending 3-time Eastern Conference champions. That, of course, would be the Miami Heat, the defending 2-time NBA champions. The Eastern Conference is pretty good at the top. And you're going to tell me and all these other people that are sitting there saying that the Bulls are legit title contenders. Whoa, 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 whoa. You're telling me that in the playoffs, the Chicago Bulls could be any combination of the Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, and the Miami Heat. No, they can't guard LeBron. The Pacers are too physical for him. And the Nets probably just have too much all-around talent for him now. There's no way the Bulls are title contenders for the 2013-2014 season, period. And I can't believe anybody would actually legitimately say that with a straight face. In fact, the Bulls are not going to become real deal legit title contenders until they amnesty Carlos Boozer's sorry ass out of there and they finally let Luol Deng leave at the end of the year via free agency. You can't keep tying up this much money, almost $30 million a year, in these 2 guys to have Luol Deng averaging like 15 or 16 points a game and Boozer giving you like 17 points and 8.5 rebounds as your power forward. It's just not going to get it done. In today's NBA, you've got to have, in most cases, that number 2 superstar that can go toe to toe and help shoulder a majority of the load, along with your franchise player. Teams like Miami have them. Teams like Oklahoma City have them with Durant and Westbrook. And you would think of all things, people looking at the Bulls, the ultimate example with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. You had to have those two real deal superstars in order to seriously think about winning an NBA championship. But yet somehow a lot of Bulls fans think that Derrick Rose and a bunch of second tier guys is enough to get the job done. And what planet are you living on? Unless the Monstars are going to come and take Luol Deng and Carlos Boozer's powers and make them better, there's no way the Bulls are going to win an NBA championship this year, period. I can't believe anybody would actually suggest it. The only chance this organization has to be any type of real deal title contender anytime soon is probably two things. One, LeBron James takes his ass out of Miami, maybe goes to Cleveland next year. And two, the Bulls finally move on from Carlos Boozer and Luol Deng and go in a different direction and find a real deal legit number 2 superstar to play with Derrick Rose for many years to come. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Bulls can be a legit title contender. But they can't do that this year. So that's why they're not legit title contenders this year, period. You really want to argue me on this? You really have that much faith in Luol Deng and Carlos Boozer as your second and third option? Your second and third option for a championship contending team. Get the fuck out of here.